Jake Morrison stood in the great hall and felt very small. The ceiling stretched up so high he could not see the top. Around him, 12 massive platforms held the alien representatives of the Galactic Council. Each platform glowed with different colors. Some pulsed like heartbeats. Others sparkled like stars. Jake wore his best Earth uniform, but it felt cheap next to all the alien technology around him. He was only 35 years old, but today he carried the weight of all humanity on his shoulders. Behind him sat Lisa Parker, Earth's top military officer. Her face was calm, but Jake could see her hands were tight fists. The Zephyrian ambassador began to speak. It had no mouth, so colored lights danced across its crystal body instead of words. A machine translated the lights into human speech. The Galactic Council has made its decision about the human species, the machine said in a flat voice. We have watched your people for 30 years. We have seen what you do. Jake felt his heart beat faster. This was it. The moment that would decide humanity's future in the galaxy. Humans are too violent, the voice continued. You fight each other. You fight us. You take risks that put everyone in danger. Your technology grows too fast. You ask too many questions. You do not follow the old ways that have kept peace for 1,000,000 years. Lisa Parker leaned forward in her chair. Jake knew she wanted to argue, but this was not the time. They had to hear everything first. The Altarian delegate spoke next. It looked like a giant flower made of metal petals. In just 30 years, humans have spread to 47 worlds. Most species take 1,000 years to do what you have done. This is not natural. This is dangerous. More aliens began to speak. The Vorthon Empire called humans chaos bringers. The Crystalline Collective said humans disrupted the harmony of space. One by one, Jake heard the same message. Humans were too much trouble. Dr. Ben Carter sat in the back row. He was Earth's expert on alien life, and he had seen this coming. For months he had warned Earth's government that the Council was getting scared of humanity. But nobody had listened. Now it was too late. The Nexari Prime Minister stood up. It was a tall, thin creature with 4 arms and skin like blue glass. When it spoke, its voice was like singing. The vote has been taken, it sang. 11 members of the Council agree. Only the Kepler Syndicate spoke for humanity. The decision is final. Jake felt the blood leave his face. He knew what was coming. But hearing it was still a shock. Humanity is banned from the civilized sphere, the Prime Minister continued. You have 180 standard days to leave all worlds, stations, and space platforms within Council territory. Any human found in our space after that time will be arrested. Lisa Parker stood up so fast her chair fell over. You cannot do this, she shouted. We have colonies on 23 worlds. We have families, businesses, entire cities. The Zephyrian ambassador's lights flashed angry red. The decision is made. Humans may go anywhere outside the civilized sphere. We suggest the void expanse. Jake felt his stomach drop. Every spacer in the galaxy knew about the void expanse. People called it the abyss. It was a huge area of empty space filled with dark storms and strange energy. Ships that went there never came back. It was like being told to go live on the surface of a star. Dr. Carter stood up slowly. He was an old man with gray hair and kind eyes, but now those eyes were full of anger. The void expanse? He said quietly. You are not exiling us, you are trying to kill us. The flower-like Altarian rustled its metal petals. That is your choice to make. You may also surrender your independence and become a protected species under Council guidance. We would allow you to keep one world, under strict limits. Jake understood now. This was not really about humanity being dangerous. This was about control. The Council wanted to break human pride. They wanted humanity to come crawling back, begging to be saved. Lisa Parker's voice was like ice. What kind of limits? No more than 1 billion humans total, sang the Nexari. No space travel, beyond your home system. No weapons, no independent research. Council supervisors on your world at all times. Jake looked around the Great Hall. The alien faces showed no emotion, but he could feel their satisfaction. They thought they had won. They thought humans would choose slavery over death in the abyss. They were wrong. Jake Morrison had been born in the ruins of old Detroit. His grandfather had told him stories about the old days when humans thought they could never leave Earth. But they had proven everyone wrong. They had reached the stars when aliens said it was impossible. They had joined the Galactic Council when everyone said they were too primitive. Now the Council wanted to put humanity in a cage. Jake stood up straight and looked directly at the Zephyrian ambassador. When he spoke, his voice carried across the massive hall. "We did not ask to join your club," he said clearly, "and we sure as hell do not need your permission to survive." The lights on the Zephyrian crystal body flashed in patterns Jake could not read. But he did not need translation to understand anger. "Then you choose exile," the machine voice said. "You choose the abyss." Jake smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of a man who had just been challenged to a fight. "We choose freedom," he said. Behind him, Lisa Parker stood up. Her hand moved to rest on her sidearm. Around the hall, alien security forces shifted nervously. 180 days, Jake said. "We will be gone in 90. He turned and walked toward the exit. Lisa Parker and Dr. Carter followed him. Their footsteps echoed in the huge hall. As they reached the door, Jake heard the Nexari Prime Minister call out, behind them, "You will not survive the abyss," it sang sadly. "Come back when you realize this. We will still accept your surrender." Jake did not turn around, but his voice carried back to every alien in the hall. "Do not hold your breath." The great doors closed behind them with a sound like thunder. Admiral Kate Sullivan stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance and watched humanity's greatest exodus begin. Through the massive viewport, she could see hundreds of ships stretching out into space like a metal river. Transport vessels, cargo haulers, military cruisers, and hastily built colony ships all moved together toward the edge of known space. 200 million humans were leaving everything they had ever known. Kate felt the weight of every single life under her protection. She was 42 years old and had commanded fleets before, but nothing like this. This was not a military operation. This was the survival of her entire species. Chief Engineer Rick Davis came up beside her. His clothes were dirty with grease and his eyes were red from lack of sleep. For the past 3 months, he had been working day and night to prepare the ships for what was coming. "Admiral, the new shield systems are online," Rick said. "I cannot promise they will work, but they are the best we can build with what we have." Kate nodded. Rick had taken alien shield technology and completely rebuilt it using human engineering. The Council species had designed their shields to block known weapons. Rick had designed his shields to adapt to anything. "What about the dark matter storms?" Kate asked. Rick rubbed his tired eyes. "Dr. Foster thinks she has an answer for that, too. But we will not know until we get there." Dr. Amy Foster was working 3 decks below in the science lab. She was only 28 years old, but she was already the smartest physicist humanity had ever produced. While other scientists had tried to avoid dark matter, Amy had spent years learning to use it. The journey to the abyss took 6 months. During that time, every ship became a workshop. Engineers built new equipment. Scientists ran thousands of tests. Families prepared for a life in unknown space. Kate walked through the ship every day, talking to people. She saw fear in many faces, but she also saw something else. She saw determination. She saw humans doing what they had always done best, finding ways to survive when everyone said it was impossible. Captain Steve Reynolds commanded the exploration ship UES Pioneer. His job was to scout ahead of the main fleet and find safe paths through space. Steve was a quiet man with steady hands and sharp eyes. He had explored more unknown space than any other human alive. 3 weeks before they reached the abyss, Steve made the first discovery that changed everything. "Admiral," his voice came over the radio, "you need to see this." Kate looked at the data Steve was sending. According to his instruments, there were massive energy readings coming from the abyss. Not the chaotic energy of storms, but organized patterns that looked almost like Rivers. Are you sure about this? Kate asked. I have run the scans 5 times, Steve replied. There are streams of dark matter flowing through the abyss like highways. If Dr. Foster is right about her theories, we might be able to use them. Amy Foster was called to the bridge immediately. She looked at Steve's data with growing excitement. This is incredible, she whispered. The dark matter is not random. It is flowing in currents like ocean streams. If we can match our ships to the frequency of these currents, we could ride them, Kate finished. Like sailing ships riding the wind. Amy nodded quickly. Better than that. Dark matter moves faster than light. These streams could take us anywhere in the galaxy in days instead of years. When the fleet finally reached the edge of the abyss, Kate felt her breath catch in her throat. The space ahead of them was not the empty darkness they had expected. It was alive with moving energy. Purple and blue streams of light flowed through, the black like glowing rivers. Strange particles danced in patterns that hurt to look at directly. It is beautiful, whispered Dr. Carter, who had joined them on the bridge. But beauty could be deadly. As they watched, one of the smaller ships got too close to a dark matter stream. Lightning jumped from the stream to the ship's hull. For a moment, Kate thought they were about to lose their first vessel. Instead, something amazing happened. The ship's new shields absorbed the lightning and converted it into power. The ship's engines suddenly burned twice as bright. Rick Davis laughed, out loud. The dark matter is not trying to destroy us, he said. It is trying to feed us energy. We just had to learn how to eat it. Over the next few weeks, human ships learned to navigate the abyss like nowhere else in the galaxy. They rode the dark matter streams at incredible speeds. They harvested exotic particles for fuel. They discovered that the empty space was actually full of resources that no other species had ever learned to use. The first human colony was established on a world orbiting a dark matter-enriched star. The planet was bathed in strange radiation that should have been deadly. Instead, the human colonists began to adapt. Their reflexes became faster. Their minds became sharper. Their bodies became stronger. Commander Joe Martinez led the first ground survey team on the New World. He was a tough Marine who had fought in 3 wars, but even he was amazed by what he found. The radiation is not hurting us, he reported. To Kate, it is changing us, making us better. Dr. Helen Brooks, the team's medical officer, confirmed Joe's report. The colonists are evolving, she said. Their cells are adapting to process the exotic energy. In a few generations, these humans will be completely different from their Earth ancestors. Kate realized that the Council had made a terrible mistake. They had tried to exile humanity to a place that would kill them. Instead, they had sent humanity to a place that would make them stronger than ever before. 6 months after entering the abyss, Kate received a message that made her smile. It was from the newest human colony, now home to 50,000 people. Admiral, the message said, we are not just surviving here, we are thriving. The abyss is not our prison, it is our new home, and we are becoming something the galaxy has never seen before. Colonel Dan Murphy had seen strange things in his 20 years as a soldier, but nothing had prepared him for what lay in the deep core of the abyss. His exploration ship, the UES Pathfinder, moved slowly through streams of dark matter that glowed, like liquid starlight. Around him, space itself seemed to bend and twist in ways that made his eyes water. Colonel, we are getting readings I have never seen before, said Lieutenant Carol Hughes from the science station. She was young and brilliant, fresh out of the academy with degrees in both biology and quantum physics. The dark matter here is not just flowing randomly, it is forming patterns, complex patterns. Dan looked at the display screen. The patterns looked almost like neural networks, like the inside of a giant brain. Dr. Helen Brooks sat at the medical station, her face pale with excitement and fear. She was the expedition's expert on alien psychology, and she had been studying the strange energy readings for weeks. Colonel, Helen said quietly, I think the abyss is alive. Dan felt a chill run down his spine. What do you mean alive? Helen pointed to her instruments. The energy patterns are not random. They show the same types of electrical activity we see in living brains, but this brain would be thousands of light years across. As if responding to her words, the dark matter around their ship began to pulse. The pulsing was slow and steady, like a heartbeat. Dan watched his crew's faces turn from curiosity to wonder to fear. "Should we retreat?" asked Carol. Dan thought about it. Every instinct told him to run. But humans had not conquered the stars by running from the unknown. "No," he said. "We make contact." Helen looked at him like he was crazy. "Contact? With what?" "We do not even know if it can understand us." "Then we teach it," Dan replied. They started simple. Helen created a basic mathematical sequence, 1, 2, 3, 4, and broadcast it into the dark matter using their communications array. For several minutes, nothing happened. Then the dark matter around them pulsed 4 times. Carol gasped. It understood. They tried more complex patterns, prime numbers, basic geometric shapes. Each time the entity, Helen had started calling it the deep mind, responded correctly. But then something unexpected happened. The deep mind began sending its own signals back. The signals were not mathematics. They were emotions. Pure, raw feelings transmitted directly into the minds of the human crew. First came curiosity, so intense it made Dan's head spin. Then came loneliness, a sadness so deep, it brought tears to Carol's eyes. "It has been alone," Helen whispered. "For millions of years it has been alone." The deep mind had been waiting. It had watched countless species explore the galaxy, but none of them had been able to communicate with it. They were too rigid, too afraid of chaos, too locked into their own ways of thinking. But humans were different. Humans thrived on chaos. They adapted to anything. They asked questions that no one else dared to ask. Over the following days, the communication became deeper. The deep mind showed them visions of the galaxy's history. It had watched civilizations rise and fall. It had seen the Galactic Council form and grow stale with age. It had waited for a species that could think beyond the boundaries of normal, space and time. "It wants to make a deal," Helen explained to Dan after a particularly intense communication session. "It offers us knowledge and technology beyond anything the Council has. In return, it wants companionship. It wants us to explore the universe together." Dan thought about all the humans struggling to build new lives in the abyss. He thought about the families who had lost everything when they were exiled. He thought about the Council's arrogance and their certainty that humanity would fail. "What kind of technology?" he asked. The answer came not in words, but in direct experience. Suddenly, Dan could see beyond normal space. He could perceive dimensions that folded through reality like origami. He could feel the connection between all living things in the galaxy. Carol Hughes found herself understanding biological processes that had puzzled scientists for centuries. The deep mind showed her how life itself was connected to the fabric of space-time, how consciousness could shape matter at the quantum level. Commander Joe Martinez arrived with a military fleet just as the first breakthroughs were happening. Joe was a practical man who believed in things he could touch and shoot, but even he could not deny what he was seeing. Human ships began to change. Their hulls became partially alive, incorporating dark matter organisms that could repair damage and adapt to new threats. The ships could phase in and out of normal space, becoming ghosts that could pass through solid matter. Weapon systems evolved beyond simple energy beams and missiles. Human soldiers learned to manipulate space-time itself, creating fields that could slow down enemy projectiles or accelerate their own movements. But the most dramatic changes happened to the humans themselves. The first generation of children born in the deep abyss were different from their parents. Alex Turner was one of these children, and at only 16 years old, he could navigate dark matter storms with his eyes closed. "I can feel the currents," Alex explained to Dr. Brooks during one of her medical examinations. "They speak to me. The deep mind is like a friend who lives in my head, but not in a scary way, in a helpful way." Alex and others like him could communicate directly. With the deep mind without machines, they could sense danger from light years away. They could manipulate matter and energy in ways that seemed like magic. The transformation was not forced. The deep mind offered its gifts freely, and each human could choose how much to accept. Some remained mostly unchanged. Others embraced the symbiosis completely, becoming something new and wonderful. Dan Murphy watched it all happen and realized that humanity had found something more valuable than any planet or resource. They had found a partner in exploring the infinite mysteries of the universe. The Council had tried to exile them to emptiness and death. Instead, they had exiled them to transcendence. Ambassador Rachel Stone stood in the communications center of New Haven, the largest human city in the abyss. The message that had just arrived from the Galactic Council was spread across multiple screens, but she could barely believe what she was reading. "They want our help," she said to the empty room. "After 5 years of exile, they want our help." The message was from the Nixari Prime Minister, the same alien who had sung their exile sentence years ago. But there was no singing in this message, only desperation. The Devourers had come. Fleet Admiral Paul Wright entered the communications center, his new uniform shimmering with threads of living dark matter. He was no longer the same man who had left Council space 5 years ago. His eyes held depths that seemed to stretch into other dimensions. "How bad is it?" Paul asked. Rachel pulled up the tactical reports. 17 star systems consumed in the past month. The Devourer ships are the size of moons. Their weapons turn entire planets into fuel. The Council's combined fleets have lost every battle. Paul studied the data with inhuman focus. The deep mind whispered calculations and probabilities directly into his consciousness. The numbers were grim. At this rate, the Devourers would consume the entire civilized sphere within 2 years. "What do the Devourers want?" Paul asked. "Everything," Rachel replied. "They convert matter into energy to power their ships. They do not negotiate, they do not stop, they just consume." Paul nodded slowly. He had seen this pattern before in the deep mind's memories. The Devourers were not evil exactly. They were more like a force of nature, driven by hunger that could never be satisfied. "The Council is offering us full membership and colonies in the best systems if we help them," Rachel continued. "They say they will forget the exile ever happened." Paul laughed, but there was no humor in it. 5 years too late for that. Captain Nancy Foster walked into the room, her presence causing the air itself to shimmer slightly. Nancy commanded, "The UES Retribution, one of the new Abyss-adapted ships that existed partially in normal space and partially in the dark matter dimension. Admiral, the fleet is ready," she reported. "We have 200 ships prepared for deep space operations. Each one is crewed by volunteers who have fully integrated with the deep mind." Paul looked out the window at the human fleet assembling in space. The ships were beautiful and terrible to behold. They looked like they were made of living shadow, their hulls flowing and shifting like liquid metal. Streams of dark matter energy flowed between them, connecting them in a network of shared consciousness. "And the crews?" Paul asked. "A mix of original humans and abyssborn," Nancy replied. "The original humans provide experience and wisdom. The abyssborn provide the ability to interface directly with the ship systems." Paul made his decision. "We go, but not to save the Council. We go to protect the innocent people caught in this war." The human fleet emerged from the abyss like ghosts materializing from a nightmare. They appeared at the edge of the Altarian system, where a massive Devourer fleet was in the process of consuming the 4th planet. The Devourer ships were exactly as described. Massive, moon-sized vessels that looked like metallic tumors growing through space. Energy beams the size of city blocks lanced out from their surfaces, breaking apart planets and sucking the debris into their hungry maws. Captain Nancy Foster watched the destruction from the bridge of the Retribution. Her ship existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously, so the Devourers could not even see her approach. "All ships begin the attack," she ordered. The human ships phased into normal space like vengeful spirits. Their weapons were not the energy beams and missiles that the Council used. Instead, they manipulated space-time itself, creating tiers in reality that the Devourers could not defend against. One moment, A devourer ship was consuming a planet. The next moment, it was trapped in a pocket of twisted space where time moved backwards. The ship began to unravel, its own weapons firing into its past self. Another devourer vessel found itself phasing in and out of existence as human ships attacked it from multiple dimensions at once. It tried to return fire, but its weapons passed harmlessly through targets that were not entirely present in normal space. The battle that should have taken days was over in hours. The devourer fleet was not destroyed. It was converted. Human technology infected their ships like a virus, turning their own consumption drives against them. The devourers found themselves consuming their own fleet instead of planets. The surviving devourer command ship tried to escape, but Alex Turner was waiting for it. The young man stood on the bridge of his ship. His consciousness expanded across multiple dimensions and simply reached out with his mind. The devourer ship stopped moving. Its engines died. Its weapons powered down. Alex had connected directly to its control systems and shut them down with a thought. "Surrender," Alex said, his voice carrying across space itself. "You cannot win this war." The devourer response came as a burst of confused hunger and rage. They had never been stopped before. They had never even been challenged. "We can teach you a different way," Alex continued. "The deep mind shows us how to feed on dark matter itself. You do not need to consume planets. You do not need to destroy civilizations." For the first time in their existence, the devourers hesitated. News of the victory spread across the galaxy faster than light. The Galactic Council had failed to stop the devourers in dozens of battles. Humanity had defeated them in a single engagement. The Council's desperate pleas for help became something else entirely. They became offers of surrender. But Paul Wright was not interested in ruling the galaxy. He had seen too much of the universe to care about political power. The deep mind had shown him threats that made the devourers look like children playing with toys. "We accept your surrender," he told the council, "but not as your new masters, as your teachers. The universe is far more dangerous than you know, and we all need to be stronger if we are going to survive what is coming." General Sam Rodriguez stood on the command deck of the massive battle station that had once been a devourer mothership. 3 years of war had changed everything. The ship's dark corridors now hummed with human technology, and its converted weapons pointed toward the edge of the galaxy where the final devourer fleet was making its last stand. "General, we have them surrounded," reported Commander Lisa Hayes from the tactical station. She was one of the new generation of human deep mind hybrids, her consciousness able to coordinate hundreds of ships across multiple star systems simultaneously. Sam nodded and looked at the holographic display. The remaining devourers had gathered around a dying star using its energy to power their final weapons. But they were not fighting to win anymore. They were fighting to delay the inevitable. "Why are they still fighting?" asked Dr. Tim Crawford, humanity's chief diplomat. "We have offered them sanctuary. We have shown them how to feed on dark matter instead of planets. Why do they refuse?" The answer came from an unexpected source. Alex Turner, now 21, and serving as humanity's primary interface with the deep mind, suddenly stiffened. His eyes rolled back, showing only white, and when he spoke, his voice carried harmonics that made the air vibrate. "They are not fighting us," Alex said in the deep mind's layered voice. "They are fighting what is behind them. They are trying to seal the way." Sam felt his blood turn cold. What is behind them? The main display changed to show deep space beyond the galaxy's edge. At first, it looked empty. Then the sensors adjusted, and Sam saw something that made him understand why the devourers had been so desperate to consume everything in their path. Darkness moved between the stars, not the empty darkness of space, but something actively black that seemed to eat light itself. As Sam watched, entire star clusters simply vanished, consumed by things that existed in the spaces between galaxies. "The Void Eaters," Alex whispered. "The deep mind remembers them from the last cycle. They consume entire galaxies, not just worlds. The devourers have been running from them for millions of years." Dr. Crawford stared at the display. "How do you fight something like that?" "You do not fight them," Alex replied. "You survive them. and to survive them you need to be something they cannot consume. The final battle with the Devourers was not really a battle at all. It was a rescue mission. Sam's fleet surrounded the dying star and began the delicate process of extracting the remaining Devourer ships without triggering their self-destruct mechanisms. "Devourers," Sam broadcast on all frequencies, "we know what you are running from. Let us help you." The response came in broken transmissions filled with terror and exhaustion. The Devourers had been fleeing the Void Eaters for so long that they had forgotten how to do anything else. Their entire civilization had become focused on survival through consumption. Alex Turner worked with the Deep Mind to create a new solution. If the Devourers could not stop consuming, then they would be taught to consume the right things. Dark matter was infinite. The energy between dimensions was endless. There was no need to destroy planets when the universe itself could provide all the fuel they needed. One by one, the Devourer ships allowed human technicians aboard. The conversion process was slow and careful. Each ship's consumption drive was modified to feed on dimensional energy instead of matter. The hungry machines that had once devoured worlds now ate space-time itself. President Laura Collins announced the formation of the Abyss Compact from the new capital on Nexus Deep, a world that existed partially in normal space and partially in the dark matter dimension. The ceremony was attended by representatives from every species in the galaxy, including the transformed Devourers. "The old order is finished," Laura declared. "The Galactic Council ruled through fear and rigid hierarchy. The Abyss Compact will govern through adaptation and exploration. We face threats that no single species can survive alone." The Council species had little choice but to accept the new arrangement. Their fleets were destroyed, their confidence shattered, and their worlds defenseless against cosmic-scale threats. But the humans did not seek revenge. They sought cooperation. Dr. Crawford worked tirelessly to establish the new government structure. Unlike the Council's rigid caste system, the compact was based on merit and innovation. Species that contributed new ideas and solutions gained influence. Those that clung to old ways found themselves increasingly irrelevant. The transformation was not just political, it was evolutionary. Human technology and techniques spread throughout the galaxy. Alien species began to adapt their biology to interface with dark matter. Children born in the new era could perceive dimensions that their parents could not imagine. But the greatest change was philosophical. The Deep Mind's influence spread beyond humanity, teaching other species to embrace chaos and change instead of fearing it. The rigid thinking that had dominated the galaxy for millions of years began to crack and crumble. Admiral Paul Wright led the first expeditionary force beyond the galaxy's edge. His ships were no longer recognizable as technology in any traditional sense. They were living entities that existed across multiple dimensions, crewed by beings who were part human, part alien, and part something entirely new. "We go not as conquerors," Paul announced as the fleet prepared to depart, "but as explorers. The universe is vast and full of wonders we cannot imagine. We will face whatever comes with courage and curiosity." The Deep Mind's influence had grown beyond the abyss to encompass the entire galaxy. But it was no longer a single entity. It had become a network of consciousness that included every willing species, a collective intelligence that could adapt to any threat. Alex Turner, now serving as the primary conduit for this vast network, stood on the observation deck of the lead ship as they passed beyond the galaxy's spiral arms. Behind them, the Milky Way glowed with new life and energy. Ahead lay the infinite darkness of intergalactic space. "Are you ready?" the Deep Mind asked. Through Alex's consciousness, Alex smiled. Around him, millions of beings from dozens of species shared his confidence. They were no longer just humans or devourers or council species. They were something new, something that could face the Void Eaters and whatever other cosmic horrors waited in the dark. "We are ready," Alex replied. "We are human. We adapt. We survive. We explore. And we are not alone anymore." The fleet vanished into the darkness between galaxies, carrying the light of consciousness into the vast unknown.